Good morning, guys. So in this video I'm going to talk to you about test data and dynamic problems and the issues you may face when having to work with a dynamic problem. So what is a dynamic problem or a non-deterministic problem? Well, this is kind of me, making up my own. There's probably a better definition for this term, and if you know about it, you can leave a comment or something. But basically, the way that I define a non-deterministic problem is a problem that will basically result in a different output almost every single time. A good example of this is, let's say we take my job, for example. At my job, one of the core foundations of the application's value to the user is that we look at bank transactions for a user's bank account basically, and figure out subscriptions and how much people are spending on different subscriptions. And that's a very, very dynamic problem because every user has different input data. Because my transactions are different from yours. And in the case of a project I have, which basically parses your SAS files and finds out, the different references you have to different things, that's also a very non-deterministic or it's not non-deterministic, that's the wrong word. I don't have a nice term for this, actually. But it's a very dynamic problem because every single user that uses the tool is going to have a different output. So what I've found when it comes to this, when we have the discussion about unit testing is a great way to kind of make sure that every little piece of your application works. But in a scenario where you have this sort of problem, I've found that it's much more valuable to have integration tests and actually focus more on integration testing than anything else. And to give you an example of this, for my own project, when I started developing this tool to kind of to parse SAS files, I had, as you imagine, there's so many combinations of SAS. You can build it, you can structure your code in any in all manner of ways, and there was no way for me to think ahead of time of all the different cases. So what I did was that I actually had the approach that when I got a bug, like a bug report from my colleagues or something like that, I would simply ask them to provide me with the actual files. I would tell them, okay, could you send me over the folder with all the SAS files that are misbehaving? And then I made that into a use case, and that has proven to be a very, very effective way of solving bugs for a very complicated application. It's actually the same approach that I'm promoting at my job to solve this type of problem, because as the algorithm that does pattern matching for different subscriptions and intervals and so forth, it's a very complicated problem to solve, and it's going to be with the company as long as the company exists. And I'd argue that if you have the approach of, I'm not going to try to make a perfect algorithm on the first try. I will simply, every time there's a bug report, get the actual user data, the actual stuff from production, and put that as a test case. And if it fails, then we have confirmed that this is an issue, and then we will solve that problem. And if you have that approach, and little by little you add more and more real world use cases, that, at least in my experience, has proven to be an extremely effective way to keep bugs out of a very complicated, dynamically calculated system, basically. So hopefully this was useful to you.